Hello everyone, welcome to the Old Man and the Read. My name is Jerry. Today I'm going to discuss the books I've read by another favorite writer of mine, Ernest J Gaines. Gaines was born in 1933 and died in 2019. Now he was born on a plantation in Louisiana and raised by his aunt. And so that became kind of the setting, and a lot of the subjects he wrote about revolved around that situation he grew up in. And he wrote mostly about the black experience in the South. But just an exceptionally good writer, wrote some really good books. And so I'll show those to you. The first book, I don't know that this was the first book he published, but it's the first of his books, that earliest book that he published that I've read. And this was Catherine Carmier, published in 1964. And this follows a young man, Jackson, who returns to his home. It's the home of his aunt who raised him, and he had been away for about 10 years for an education. And when he returned, his aunt expected him to stay home and to then teach. But he had other ideas. He wasn't planning on staying. He wanted to go somewhere else. But he really didn't know how to tell his aunt that, and so it put him in a bit of a predicament. But then he became entangled in a little bit of a love affair, a very ill-fated love affair with Catherine Carmier. And she was very devoted to her father, and that led to some real problems. The next book that he published that I read was Of Love and Dust. This was published in 1967. And this follows a man named Marcus, who is released from jail. He was awaiting trial for murder, but he was released to work on a plantation. He was put under the supervision of an overseer named Bonbon. But while he was working there, he became involved first with Bonbon's black mistress, and then the Bonbon's white wife, and this led to some very predictable, dire consequences. The next book I have was published in 1968, Bloodline, and this is 5 short stories. The first one is, let's see, A Long Day in November, and this is about a mother and son who moved back to her mother's because her husband is spending all of his time driving a car he has. The Sky is Gray is about a young boy who has a toothache and is going to the dentist. Another one titled 3 Men, and this is it's basically about a young man who's put into jail for killing another man. Then the title book, Bloodline, and this is about a man who comes back because he's the son of the white landowner and a black woman, and he's coming back to claim the land that the man owned, and which is completely not wasn't allowed back in that period. And then the last story in the book is Just Like a Tree, and this is about a bunch of people that gather to watch an old woman who is being moved out of her house. The next book I have, In My Father's House, was published in 1978, and this is about a Baptist minister who must face his past. A young man comes into town, a very mysterious young man who's seeking revenge against the man who left his family 20 years before. And so the minister now has to face the consequences of his behavior. Next book I have, it was published in 1983, A Gathering of Old Men, and this is about the story of a white Cajun man who is killed by a black man out of self-defense. The black man shot him with a shotgun. But before the sheriff can arrive, it's arranged to have, they brought in 15 old men gathered, each of them with a shotgun, gathered to tell the sheriff that they had actually committed the murder, each of them confessing to it, in the attempts to try to protect the man who did it. And but the sheriff pretty much knows who actually committed the murder. But I strategically placed a drawing that I did. That's something I do besides read books, is do pencil drawings. But this is a drawing of 15 old men holding shotguns, and it was inspired by reading that book. The next book I have is it was published in 1973 or 1993, I guess it was. Lesson Before Dying, and this takes place in 1940s Louisiana, and it's about a young man named Jefferson who accepts a ride with a couple of men, but unfortunately for him, those two men then stop to commit a robbery while he's still riding with them. It ends up in a shootout. Both of the men are killed, but Jefferson is then arrested for murder. He's put on trial, and during the trial, the prosecutor referred to him as a hog, and this very much affected his self-esteem. And so his aunt has asked the school teacher, Grant Wiggins, to visit Jefferson and try to convince him that he's not a hog, and to get his self-esteem back, and she knowing full well that he will be executed because of that murder. And the last book I have was published in 2017, The Tragedy of Brady Sims, and this is about a man, Brady Sims, who shoots his son in the courtroom after the son was convicted of murder. Then Brady Sims held the gun on the two guards in the courtroom and told them to tell the sheriff to give him 2 hours before he would give himself up. So the sheriff is told that, and he decides to allow Sims the 2 hours out of the respect that he had for the man. Anyway, those are the books I've read by Ernest J Gaines. Just exceptionally well written books. I thought A Lesson Before Dying is actually one of the best books I've ever read. So just an exceptional writer, very enjoyable read. So I want to thank you for watching, and hopefully see you on another video. Thanks.